Hello, welcome. Salutations. Tuesday edition of the show. Glad to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or whether you've downloaded the Extra Sports 1300 app, sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health, and well-being for all. A veritable cornucopia of sports topics await you over the course of the program, and I'd love to get your thoughts today at 719 247 1313. Now, thinking about the press conference yesterday that Josh Kroenke had regarding the firing of Michael Malone and where the Nuggets go from here, there was one quote that he had that kind of stuck with me a little bit. He was asked about the players adjusting to their coach being fired with 3 games left, right? And the idea that would perhaps add pressure to this Denver Nuggets team. And Josh Kroenke said his goal is actually the opposite. It's to rip the Band-Aid off, something that he knew at some point he was going to have to do. That wasn't going to be easy. And there are going to be a lot of people saying, why are you doing this? But by doing it, it would alleviate pressure rather than put more pressure on. And I've been thinking about that, and then watching some of the coverage of these NBA playoffs and some of the prognostications. I think that Josh Kroenke is right. I think there was a time a week or two ago that the Denver Nuggets were under immense pressure. Immense pressure to win, to make a deep run in the playoffs. Now, the Lakers certainly have more pressure than the Denver Nuggets. The Warriors, I could go down the list. I've heard almost every other team in the Western Conference get mentioned when it comes to what pressure they are feeling. Stephen A. Smith the other day did the NBA stars with the most pressure in these playoffs. Not a single one of them were on the Denver Nuggets. I think this has absolutely done that. It's absolutely alleviated the pressure from this team. This team is not, I don't think they're feeling pressure. And I think they had external pressure. I think they had internal pressure. I think there was pressure that was being put on them by their head coach. And there was outside pressure being put on them because up until a week ago, they were viewed as one of the contenders in the Western Conference. Not the contender. That's OKC. Or if they wanted to ask the question outside of Oklahoma City, who could win? Nuggets weren't the first one on there, but I think most people would mention the Nuggets as being a contender. You could see the Denver Nuggets making out of the West. Think about how much the conversation has flipped in just the last week. ESPN just did their picks for the first round. 7 out of the 9 analysts they asked picked the Clippers, despite the Denver Nuggets being the higher seed and having home court. Nobody is taking the Denver Nuggets as any kind of contender or dark horse. You know where the Denver Nuggets are back at? What place in time the Denver Nuggets are back to? Before they won a title. That's where they're at. And that was a time that you could argue you don't trade anything for a championship. But think about how much more fun it was with around the Denver Nuggets before they won a title. Right? It was stuff like Michael Malone saying, take that L on the way out. It was constant talk about it is the year that Nikola Jokic ended up winning a title was the year that Joel Embiid won the MVP. Now, that conversation wasn't fun. That was actually quite gross, that conversation and where it turned. But just think about what Michael Malone did successfully for many years in building up the culture in the Denver Nuggets. Everybody doubts us. Nobody's paying attention to us. We're in the dusty old cow town. Like, remember all of those quotes? Michael Malone, the best thing that he did perhaps in his time as head coach was pit Nuggets against everybody. Everybody dismisses our superstar. They dismiss our time zone. They dismiss all of this stuff. He played that angle to perfection. And it put a chip on the Nuggets' shoulder collectively. Then they won. Then a lot of those tactics and things that Michael Malone would say, all of a sudden, they were kind of met with eye rolls. Like Nikola Jokic now has 3 MVPs. He's not doubted anymore. And the Nuggets are champions. They're expected to go right back to the NBA Finals the very next year. And they met a young and hungry Wolves team. And they just weren't ready for that. The being defending champions did not suit the Denver Nuggets well. I think we could say pretty much across the board, the Denver Nuggets did not handle that ultimate success well, because so much of their identity over the last few years before was that nobody believes in us, nobody's paying attention to us. You know, the fact that Nikola Jokic had no teammates that were all-stars used to more be about how ridiculous that is that Jamal Murray or Aaron Gordon aren't all-stars. And now it's being held up as that's how bad the roster is around Nikola Jokic. Like a lot of these things that Nuggets fans and the Nuggets team would rally around has kind of turned on its head a little bit with the success that they have had. Well, now by Josh Kroenke letting Michael Malone go, that dynamic has flipped back the other way. Nikola Jokic probably isn't going to win the MVP. The Denver Nuggets aren't being chosen by very many people to even make it out of the first round, let alone representing the Western Conference in the NBA Finals. And I go back to what Nikola Jokic said about awakening the beast. Yes, he was talking a little bit to Josh Kroenke. That's who he was referring to in there. But there was a lot, you know, Nikola Jokic, I don't think people understand the depth and some of the things he says. Part of what he was talking about, it was right there on the surface. Everyone thinks we're vulnerable. Everyone thinks we're not good enough. And now the Nuggets are back to being the underdog. They're playing in a series that through 82 games, they have been able to say by a slim margin, but still have been able to say they are a better team than the Los Angeles Clippers. They earned home court in a series with the LA Clippers. They finished with a higher seed than the LA Clippers. Yet the majority of people are siding with LA. The Nuggets are back to where they are most comfortable. The moments that you remember most fondly about the Denver Nuggets are from before they won a title, before and at the moment they did. Think about everything past the championship parade. Hasn't been a lot of great. Nikola Jokic winning his third MVP. But outside of that, collapse in Game 7. This year, it hasn't been fun. So everything Josh Kroenke sat up there yesterday and said, and has said since he made the change, I think it applies to the team. I think it applies to the fan base. And Josh Kroenke said yesterday, I'm more hands-on than people think. Maybe let go of the wheel a little bit too much, and in a critical time, which was when Tim Connolly was leaving and Calvin Booth became the general manager. I think that was the time that he's admitting that maybe he wasn't as hands-on. I think Josh Kroenke knows very well, even if he spends a lot of his time with Arsenal over in London, I think he knows what's going on with the Denver Nuggets, what's being said about the Denver Nuggets, the way you're feeling about this basketball team, about the coverage. Can't say that about every Kroenke Sports Enterprise property. You can say it about the Nuggets. Josh cares a lot about this basketball team, and he makes it his business to know. And I don't want to get too carried away and give him, because I don't ultimately think you can expect the Denver Nuggets to win a title after firing their head coach with 3 games to go. I think that is actually a fair thing that people are saying. So I don't want to give Josh Kroenke way too much credit. But I do think some of his calculation here is this team, I've had a couple years of them having that target on their back, them being well respected and well regarded throughout the league, always being talked about among the contenders. They don't do very well with that. They haven't done well with that. And some of it is the head coach didn't do a very good job of that. But now what he's done is turn it back, whether he meant to or not. You give him how much credit you feel like he deserves. But he's now flipped it. I mean, turn on any coverage of these NBA playoffs. 1 out of 10 people that you're going to hear from, 1 out of every 10 tweets that you read, will say the Nuggets will win this series. Unless, obviously, they have Nikola Jokic as their profile picture, and then you have to understand. But people who are supposed to be objective about it, national media in particular, not a lot of people riding with the Nuggets in the first round. And I think, given recent history, that's probably the way the Nuggets like it. Take your thoughts. 719-247-1313. Just getting going with this Tuesday edition of the show. Coming up next, Travis Hunter threatens to quit football before he even makes it to the draft. What would he quit over? I'll tell you next on Extra Sports 1300. This Saturday, Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC will be back at Widener Field hosting El Paso Locomotive and revealing their new jersey for the 2025 season. Kickoff is at 6 o'clock. Get your tickets now at switchbacksfc.com. We are a little over a week away from the draft. 9 days from the draft. And Travis Hunter has already had enough. Or there is a situation in which he would have enough. Travis Hunter, Heisman Trophy winner, if you recall, would very much like to play both defensive back and wide receiver in the NFL. It's kind of his whole deal. He said that he would go so far as to quit football if he were not allowed to do both. That's what he said. He had a one-on-one with CBS Sports, and he said, it's never playing football again because I've been doing it my whole life, and I love being on the football field. I feel like I could dominate on each side of the ball, so I really enjoy doing it. If he were not allowed to play both defensive back and wide receiver, he would quit. I'm not calling him a liar. I would say that let's just hope it never comes to that point where he has to put his money where his mouth is. I think what this is, though, I mentioned, this is Travis Hunter's identity. This is who he is as a football player. He does both. And I remember Shohei Ohtani. You are not going to be allowed to have Shohei Ohtani if he could only pitch or only hit. Shohei Ohtani was coming over to the United States to do both. And if whatever team was going to sign him did not see him as both, he was not going to sign there. So the other guy that we most think of when we think of playing both sides, if you will, or playing multiple positions, we think of Ohtani. Ohtani had the same thing in his mind when he came over from Japan. Teams had to let him do both. And still, there are talks, even with his arm injuries, that Shohei Ohtani's, I got to be able to do both. If I'm going to sign with the Dodgers, you're going to let me pitch. Travis Hunter has worked his butt off to be amazing at multiple positions, one on each side of the football. And just to give it up because an NFL team that drafts him would rather see him at one or the other. Yeah, I get where Travis Hunter is coming from. I don't believe he would actually quit football. But I don't see any reason for Travis Hunter to bend on this. We talked early in the draft process about the power that Deion Sanders has over where Shedeur goes. Right? Travis Hunter can really mess things up for teams in the draft. I don't think that he wants to. I think he'd be happy being picked just about anywhere in the draft as long as they let him do both. Whether it's Tennessee, Cleveland, the Giants, the Patriots. He just wants to do the thing that he's been working to do his entire football life. And here's the thing, the minute he caves, the minute he says to CBS Sports, I want to play both, but that's all it takes. That's all it takes. And then some team that's drafting in the top 5 goes, boom, there. We can get Travis Hunter to do one thing because he just said he would like to do both, but I'm going to do what's best for the team, right? If he finished that sentence with, I'm going to do what's best for the team may inevitably come to him and say, you said for the betterment of the team, you would be either a defensive back or a corner, or a defensive back or a wide receiver. If I'm Travis Hunter, especially with little less than 2 weeks from the draft, less than 10 days from the NFL draft, there is no reason for him to change his mind. No reason, like, it's not his draft stock that's being impacted here. It's his college teammates that we're talking about. Nobody's talking about Travis Hunter dropping in the draft because he wants to play both corner and wide receiver. So what reason would there be for Travis Hunter to sit here and say, no, I'd be okay if I only got to do one? There's no reason for him to do that. There's all the more reason for him to double down and just saying, hey, just in case you're drafting in the top 5 and you think that you're just going to put me at this one position, just know I'm going to be a huge pain in your butt. That's essentially what Travis Hunter is saying. I'm not giving up on this. I'm not relenting on this. So don't think that if you draft me at 3 or 2 or 4 and you see me as one over the other, that I'm just going to go, okay, coach, whatever you say. And I don't think he has any reason to. Yeah, and you know why? It's not just because, of his draft stock is not going to fall. It's not going to impact where he's chosen in this draft. But because he can do both. And we talk about this with quarterbacks all the time. It's important for these quarterbacks to go somewhere where they're believed in. And teams will do everything they can to make sure that the quarterback they draft is successful. It's not that much different for someone in Travis Hunter's situation. He wants to go somewhere that is going to give him the opportunity to do what he loves to do, but what he's trained to do, what he's worked his butt off to be able to do at a high level to the point where he won the Heisman Trophy. He wants a shot to do that. And I think that it would be wrong of any one of these organizations to deny him that chance. Here's the thing about Shohei Ohtani. He was a bit of a phenom. I think there were a lot of people that didn't think that Shohei Ohtani would become what he is. Now, don't get me wrong. It wasn't the lowest of expectations for Shohei Ohtani. People thought he was pretty special. But this conversation went on. Oh, he can't do both. We'll bring him over. The Angels will sign him because the Angels don't have any choice. They're desperate to sign somebody like Shohei Ohtani. They'll let him they'll tell him that, and then they'll move away from it because there's no way he could do both. And then what's happened? Yeah, he's gotten hurt. He got hurt immediately. And then he stayed healthy for a few years. And then he got hurt again, not at any higher rate than anybody else in Major League Baseball. It would be doing a disservice to Travis Hunter and, quite frankly, your team and your fan base to not give him the opportunity to play on both sides of the football. And I've been clear about this. I think that what Travis Hunter will do better at the NFL level is play corner. I think more value from Travis Hunter is on the defensive side. I think at a position group that we don't think of a lot of premier names, right? Pat Surtain obviously is the top of the hill, being just named Defensive Player of the Year. But think about how many special lockdown corners there are in the NFL. There aren't many. I think Travis Hunter has that ability. As a wide receiver, I think he has a chance to be a very good wide receiver. But the thing he does best, in my opinion, watching as many games as I have of Travis Hunter, I think he's a better defensive back than a wide receiver. But I absolutely believe he can make an impact on both sides of football. And there's going to have to be a way to go about it, right? They're going to have to balance. You can't burn him out. There's a lot more that comes along with being an NFL pro. And I think Travis Hunter is going to have to realize some of that, but he's a smart kid. He'll understand. All he wants is the chance. He just doesn't want the team drafting him to go, you're this. And I totally agree with him. You have this generational talent that is doing something that we've never seen anybody do at the level that Travis Hunter is doing it. And you're going to draft him a week from Thursday and go, you're a wide receiver. I'm sorry. You look at this draft, you're not taking Travis Hunter in the top 5 if you just think he's a wide receiver. You could maybe argue if you just think he's a defensive back. I actually think where he goes in this draft tells you everything. Because if a team takes him in the top 5, there's no way they think he's just a wide receiver. With all due respect, wide receivers can certainly be game changers and be your most important players. But in a draft class, wide receivers don't normally go that high. So I actually think this is more of just we're in the home stretch. We've talked about the draft a lot. We don't fully know, but we kind of have a good idea. I just think I think whatever team takes him has every intention of playing him on both sides of the football. I think they may differ in what preference they have for him, but I think whether it's Cleveland, whether it's the Giants, whether it's New England, whoever ends up with Travis Hunter, if they're taking him in the top 5, they believe that he can do both, or they're going to at least give him every opportunity to do both. And that's, I think, what Travis Hunter has earned. And I think you'd be foolish as an NFL franchise to shoehorn him into one or the other without even giving him a chance. 719-24-7, 1313 will continue with this Tuesday edition of Drive Time Sports right after this. Comedian Dusty Slay is bringing the Night Shift Tour to the Pikes Peak Center on Saturday, May 3rd. Tickets available now, axs.com, or in person at the Pikes Peak Center box office. Now we'll continue a segment that I really wish I would have gotten some kind of imaging or sound effect for. How about no, that's for next week. That's not it. But we now proceed with our daily Gabe Watch. The latest on Gabriel Landeskog. This morning, the Avalanche announced that Gabriel Landeskog is no longer conditioning with the Eagles. His conditioning assignment has been terminated, which I feel like is a strong way to put it. Like, can't you just say he's been called up? Recalled? Like baseball does? But either way, Gabriel Landeskog, all done with the Eagles. Thanks for the memories. How will we remember Gabriel Landeskog's legacy in Loveland? I'll let that be for the history books. But he's back with the Avalanche, and he skated today. Which is, let's call it for what it is. This is getting him back with the team so he can go with the team to Dallas to play in the playoffs. That's what this is. And I understand why Jared Bednar won't say it, and why Jared Bednar today said the plan for Gabriel Landeskog could be to ramp him up for game one, or maybe not. I'll just have to see how the week goes. We have to do this. This is just the way it's got to be. And the wait until Saturday or Sunday is going to be excruciating. Because Jared Bednar is not going to give even a little bit of a hint. But we all see it. We all have eyes. We all watched him. In fact, that was sent to me earlier today. Flow Hockey is claiming that they had 1 billion impressions on social media for their Gabriel Landeskog content, right? The games that they put in the videos. 1 billion with a B. So we saw it, or we heard about it, or we've seen videos of him for weeks practicing skating with the Colorado Avalanche. We see it. We don't have to be told by Jared Bednar to know what is going on here. I don't know. We'll find out maybe in the last episode of the documentary that Gabriel Landeskog is doing, or maybe someday after the season. But we will find out at some point what that magic barrier was. Right? What was the thing that he did that made everybody, including Jared Bednar, Chris McFarland, Gabriel Landeskog, all believe like this is going to happen? Because they all believe it. You can't tell me that Jared Bednar doesn't think he's going to have Gabriel Landeskog for game one. He absolutely thinks he'll have Gabriel Landeskog for game one. But call it not wanting to jinx it. You know, call it erring on out of an abundance, erring on the side of caution. However you want to put it, they're just not going to outright say it. But I'll tell you how this goes. Tuesday, Gabriel Landeskog returns from the Eagles to the Avalanche. The next step will be Gabriel Landeskog is flying to Dallas with the Colorado Avalanche. That might be tomorrow. Maybe it was today. I don't know. I'll have to look and see if they've already indicated that. But you know that's what the next step is. Well, we're bringing him out just in case. Just in case. And then if they play on Saturday, whenever that game is the NHL season over yet? I mean, who are we still waiting on? Can we just get going here? But there will be an announcement or a tweet or a quote that will say Gabriel Landeskog's on the trip. He is getting onto the plane. The Avs social media team will send you a picture via their social media, well, not send you, but post a picture on their social media accounts that will show Gabriel Landeskog walking up steps to get onto a plane that is bound for Dallas. That will be the next thing. And then the next thing after that will be Jared Bednar finally doing what we're all waiting for and saying Gabriel Landeskog in for game one. They're not going to do it a minute before all of these other steps are taken. Right? He had to practice with the team before he could be assigned to Loveland. And he had to play with, he had to condition with the Eagles before he could play with the Eagles. And then before he could return to the Avs, he had to play and check out well with the Eagles on the ice in 2 games. And he did. A goal, an assist, putting a dude in a headlock. He did everything. And then before he gets onto a plane to go to Dallas, he's got to be recalled by the Avs. And before Jared Bednar can say, yes, Gabriel Landeskog is going to be in the lineup for game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, Gabriel Landeskog must board the flight to Dallas. We're all seeing it. We're all on the same page now. And I've said this before. I know I was pretty much the last one. I know you have listened to me over the last month or so and are saying, like, Ryan, he's coming back. Stop doubting that he's coming back. Gabriel Landeskog coming back. I get it. You're right. I was being obstinate. I would not acknowledge what is now so abundantly clear. He's going to play. Yes, there is always, and I'll use it, and gosh, I hope that I have no cosmic powers. It's kind of like when people say, well, tomorrow I could get hit by a bus crossing the street. There is always the chance that he suffers a setback. There's always that chance. Guess what? There's also a chance, I'll pick on somebody else so you don't think I'm putting too many bad voodoo on. There's a chance that Austin Matthews suffers an injury today in practice that is going to make him unavailable for the Leafs in the playoffs. I don't wish that on Austin Matthews. I don't wish injuries on anyone. But you understand what I am saying. We are now to the point where there is always the caveat, but kind of the point is it's the same caveat that you would apply to every player on the roster. Every single player on every NHL roster could have something happen, something flare up between now and the first game of their playoffs and be out. But that is where Gabriel Landeskog is. And you know what that is? That's normal. That means that Gabriel Landeskog, for all intents and purposes, is a normal Avalanche player. He's not on the outskirts. He's not on the periphery. He's not this nebulous thing. He is right in line with Makar and McKinnon and the rest of them. Yes, something may happen between now and then. I would say there are very few moments between now and then that something can't happen, but it's the same caveat you would put on every athlete in every sport all across the globe. This is happening. And it's just a matter of the only wiggle room I still allow is that maybe it's game 2. Or if the Avs just absolutely boat race the Stars in game 1, like there's a chance that Jared Bednar slow plays this a little bit. If he's not quite ready for game 1 and the Avs win big, maybe abundance of caution, we'll hold him out of game 2 and we'll just bring him out there for game 3. Like, there's still some of that, but he's going to be a participant for the Colorado Avalanche against the Dallas Stars. Can we all agree on this? He's going to be. But Jared Bednar cannot skip any steps here. He cannot speak out of school. He cannot put any bad voodoo on Gabriel Landeskog. He's being coy. You know he is. But given how long this has gone on and how many false signs of hope there have been only for there to be a setback, it's kind of like Travis Hunter with why would he change course now? Why would he allow for any possibility that he would just play defensive back or wide receiver in the NFL? What good does that do? It's the same thing with the Avs and Gabriel Landeskog. What good does it do for Jared Bednar to step up to the microphone after practice today and go, OMG, guys, he's going to play? How awesome is that? There's no advantage to that. And by the way, not for nothing, there is another team involved in this series that probably would like to know for sure if Gabriel Landeskog is going to play. I don't think it completely changes the Stars' perspective, but you know how coaches are. You don't think Pete DeBoer would very much like to know if Gabriel Landeskog is going to be in the lineup? I talked about Miro Heiskanen yesterday. I think he is a big question mark that I'm sure Jared Bednar is like, I'd really like to know right now if he's going to play. And I think that the Stars are playing some games here. I don't know which way they're playing games again, or are they playing games to make people think he's coming back, or are they playing games to make it think that he's not coming back, to lull the Avs into a false sense of security? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure the Stars are playing some kind of games. This is natural. The Stars would like to know, maybe as much as you would, whether Gabriel Landeskog is playing. What good does it do anybody on the Avalanche side of the equation on Tuesday before at best a Saturday game 1 for Jared Bednar to let the cat out of the bag? But he knows it. You know it. I know it. We all know it. He's going to be back round 1. And I would really like to know when round 1 begins. If the NHL would like my opinion, I would say start it on Sunday. But Saturday or Sunday, it will be Avs Stars, and Gabriel Landeskog at some point is going to be there. I mean, he'll be there, but will he be on the ice? At some point, he will be. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the latest news. Again, Gabriel Landeskog back from Loveland with the Avalanche, skated with the team today. Jared Bednar says the plan is either to ramp him up for game 1 or maybe not. That's the quote from Jared Bednar. It's Tuesday. The series cannot start any earlier than Saturday. He's not going to do it. He's not going to do it as much as we like it. Although I did see that Chris McFarland is going to speak to the media, I think tomorrow. We'll see if he's a bit more forthright on Gabriel Landeskog's status or not. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, let's start to get into this Clippers-Nuggets series, shall we? Let's talk about the two matchups that I think are going to be the most important to watch over the course of this Clippers-Nuggets series, which begins on Saturday. Welcome in Drive Time Sports on this Tuesday. Appreciate you joining the show, whether you're listening or whether you're listening and watching on our social media platforms at Extra Sports 1300, Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube. Saturday afternoon, it will be game one between the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Clippers. And let me again reiterate for anybody who is curious, everything about this series and my thoughts on this series starts with the health of Jamal Murray. But that does not mean that there aren't other things that will play a factor in how this series goes. The two matchups that I think are the most intriguing going into this series: Aaron Gordon versus Kawhi Leonard and Ivica Zubac against Nikola Jokic. Those to me are the two most interesting one-on-one matchups, and there will be a lot of one-on-one between the two of them. The Clippers, with a healthy Kawhi Leonard, have been a revelation. The biggest revelation in the NBA over the last few weeks is, oh my gosh, Kawhi Leonard looks like he did in the best he's looked. I think it was Brian Windhorst who said he looked the best to him since 2019. And I'm trying to think of the last time I saw Kawhi Leonard on a basketball court after he helped the Raptors win the title. I don't remember it. So I'll co-sign that. I don't remember seeing a Kawhi Leonard that looked like this. I don't remember seeing Kawhi Leonard in a basketball uniform. I can't think of more than two moments where I have seen Kawhi Leonard do something in a Clippers uniform. So, yeah, I would say that it's quite the revelation that not only is Kawhi Leonard playing basketball, but he looks very much like the Kawhi Leonard that you do recall, which is probably a Kawhi Leonard wearing a Raptors or a San Antonio Spurs uniform. The Nuggets have their guy that can completely take over a series, but so do the Clippers. We've seen what Kawhi Leonard is capable of. Just take the Eastern Conference playoffs. Don't loop in, because I know there are other circumstances surrounding that title that the Raptors won that would lead you to maybe take some credit away from Toronto. But think about the run that Kawhi Leonard went on through those Eastern Conference playoffs. What Nikola Jokic has shown he can do for the Denver Nuggets, Kawhi Leonard can do for the LA Clippers. We think, based on past reputation and based on what we've seen over the past, 15, 20 games. And that's going to be Aaron Gordon's assignment. I don't think there's any doubt. And this is a Clippers team that loves to play one-on-one. Now, if any Nuggets get beat, it will be on the defense to rotate over and all that good stuff. But we're going to get a lot of Kawhi Leonard isolated on the wing with Aaron Gordon guarding him. And how that matchup plays out is going to be important to which direction this series goes. And history will tell you that Aaron Gordon does a very good job against Kawhi Leonard. Now, just like there's a little bit of a leap of faith, I suppose, that you take with Aaron Gordon guarding Kawhi Leonard, because we're taking a leap of faith to say that Kawhi Leonard throughout the postseason, after basically not being on the court since he won a title with the Toronto Raptors, that he's just going to be this Kawhi Leonard the whole way through. He may very well not be. We may be talking about Kawhi Leonard in game 1 and 2, and then he's done. I don't know. The basketball fan in me says, I hope not. I hope Kawhi plays the whole series. Because that would be great entertainment to see Kawhi Leonard on one side and Nikola Jokic on the other. But what I say with Aaron Gordon is we haven't seen Aaron Gordon guard Kawhi Leonard in a long time. Has Aaron Gordon lost a step? Maybe, maybe not. The data between these two guys is not super reliable before 2020. But they've gone against each other enough when Aaron Gordon has been Aaron Gordon. Kawhi Leonard's been one of the best players in the NBA, and Aaron Gordon has defended him extremely well. And on the other side, everybody is talking about what Zubac can do against Nikola Jokic. And the numbers will tell you, the metrics will tell you that of all the centers in the NBA, Zubac defends Nikola Jokic as well as anybody. He might be the best defender against Nikola Jokic. But that's not to say he will shut him down. And it's not to say that Aaron Gordon will shut down Kawhi Leonard. This is an offensive league. Joker and Kawhi are going to win more of those battles. But if you're asking me which matchup has the chance to be better for the defense, Zubac against Jokic or Gordon against Kawhi Leonard, yeah, it's going to be Gordon against Kawhi Leonard. I think that there is a higher probability of success for Aaron Gordon guarding Kawhi than Zubac guarding Nikola Jokic. So that's something that you can kind of look at and say, well, put that one on the Nuggets side of the ledger. However, there is something about the Zubac matchup that you don't love if you're a Nuggets fan. Zubac not only guards Nikola Jokic about as well as anybody, he will also force Nikola Jokic to guard him. And you think back a couple of years ago in some of the centers that Nikola Jokic had to match up against, not all of them. Like, it was DeAndre Ayton remember DeAndre Ayton was the best defense for Ayton against Jokic is to make him work on the other end of the floor. Like, Ayton can't do anything against Nikola Jokic, but if he gets the ball a lot offensively, he can wear down Jokic. Right? And Gobert, it was the other way, it's been the other way around. Like, Gobert can do some things against him defensively, but he's not going to make him work on the offensive end. That's where the Timberwolves having Gobert and Cat was so valuable for them last year. Zubac in one player can not only make Nikola Jokic work for his points on the offensive end, but can make Jokic defend on the defensive end. And that not a lot of centers in the NBA can do that. And this is the current NBA version of you can't stop him, you can only hope to contain him. you're not going to make Nikola Jokic struggle. But I think there's a real belief here that Nikola Jokic needs to go for 35 or 40 on a regular basis in this series in order for the Nuggets to win, in addition to rebounding and assisting. I mean, we're talking about 30, 35, 40-point triple-doubles that may be required of Nikola Jokic, and he's going to have to play both ends of the floor intently. Like, he's going to have to put everything into it, because we got to be fair. Nikola Jokic, not always the most willing defender, but for everything he does on the offensive end, the other guys can pick it up sometimes. But he's going to have to work. Aaron Gordon, who you might think maybe he guards Zubac, he's got his hands full. Best thing he can do is be on Kawhi. And somebody's got to make sure that James Harden is not knocking down those ridiculous threes. And I don't think James Harden will get the whistle that he is accustomed to, but you also got to defend him without chancing it. So there's a lot that the Clippers provide or bring to the table that the Nuggets defensively are going to have to be mindful of. But having a player in Zubac that may win most improved player this year, by the way, as long as they don't give it to Cade Cunningham, which would be the dumbest thing. And I'm not going to get in that conversation, but he's a number 1 overall pick. He's not eligible for most improved player in year 2. Sorry. Or year 3, whatever year he's in. We're not doing that. He's a number 1 pick. He was supposed to be this good. If Zubac can make Nikola Jokic work hard on both ends of the floor in a way that DeAndre Ayton for the Suns never did, that Rudy Gobert can't by himself, and go down the list. I mean, the closest guy I would say to what Zubac brings to the table is what, Bam Adebayo? To be able to make Nikola Jokic have to work on both ends of the floor, that's going to be the Clippers' game plan. They want to work him as hard as they can. So I think these two matchups, the Jamal Murray of it all is just, is the guy limping or is he okay? Like, I'm not worried about who's guarding Jamal Murray. I actually do think it'll be a fair amount of Kawhi Leonard. But if Jamal Murray is right, he will figure out a way to put up his numbers. I just want to see if he's moving okay. As far as one-on-one player versus player matchups, Aaron Gordon on Kawhi and Zubac and Jokic, I think, are the matchups that will go a long way to deciding this series. It really is a fascinating matchup. Really is. And I talked about this yesterday with how flawed every team in the West is, how they have a clear flaw that you can exploit if you have the necessary. I think a lot of what the Clippers bring to the table does attack Nuggets' weaknesses. They are a very good three-point shooting team. They are very good defensively. They have a big man that can make Nikola Jokic work on both ends of the floor. They will have an advantage. As much as you may like David Adelman, they do have the coaching advantage in this series. So there are a lot of pain points that the Clippers can kind of push on a little bit. And I think it's why, in addition to just the optics of Michael Malone getting fired with 3 games left, I think there are legitimate basketball reasons for people taking the LA Clippers. But I think the reason why it's so out of whack as what you would expect in a 4-5 matchup, so heavily leaning towards the Clippers being the perceived favorite, has to do with the firing of Michael Malone. Speaking of, before the playoffs begin, 3 games under David Adelman's belt as the interim head coach. I want to ask you what David Adelman would have to do to win the job in your mind. This isn't who was the I'll think of his name as soon as I go to commercial break. The guy that took over for Nathaniel Hackett. He didn't want any part of becoming the long-term head coach. David Adelman does. What does David Adelman have to do? What do the Nuggets have to do in order for you to say, conduct your search, Josh, but this is the guy that you should hire full-time to be the next head coach of the Denver Nuggets? We'll talk about that next here on Extra Sports 1300. So coming up next week, obviously we'll be right smack dab in the middle of the playoff series for both the Nuggets and the Avs, but I would like to start up again our mock draft. And that is the most interactive mock draft that you will find anywhere in sports media. I could use your help. If you are interested in making the pick for your favorite team, just text into the show 719-247-1313. Let me know what team you would like to represent in our Drive Time Sports mock draft. We have a few teams already spoken for, because I will be having some people who cover some of the more intriguing teams in this draft, bringing you that kind of insider view of everything. And the Broncos are going to be a group project, because there are, I'm sure, many people who would like to be representing the Denver Broncos. I just think it's better if collectively you all decide as a group. So when we get to pick 20 and all the picks have been made up until then, and you know who's left, we'll put out a poll question and you can vote on it. And whoever gets the most votes is going to be our Broncos selection in our Drive Time Sports mock draft. So if there is a team that you root for, that you would love to represent and to be on the air and to give your thoughts, that's the thing. I want to hear you make the pick. This is not a text in. So if you can call in, it's not like I'm going to keep on the line for 20 minutes. But if you'd like to participate, represent your favorite team, let me know. 719-247-1313. Just giving you kind of an idea of the schedule we have so far. Picks 1 through 11. So keep in mind, if your team's in there, would be on Monday. 12 through 20 would be on Tuesday. 21 through as many as we can get through would be Wednesday. And then most likely early on the show during draft day, we'd have a couple more picks left, would be my guess. So if you have to figure it out among your schedule, that's when we're planning on doing these picks. Love to hear from you. Love to make it as interactive as possible. I could sit here and pick for every team. Don't want to do that. So let me know. Hit me up, 719-247-1313. If you'd like to represent your favorite team in our Drive Time Sports mock draft beginning on Monday. Now, I don't think that 3 games under David Adelman is enough, even though they are all 3 wins. They are all 3 very important wins to the Denver Nuggets. I don't believe that 3 wins during the regular season is enough for David Adelman to win the Nuggets head coaching job. What is? I'd like to know. Because the decision, even though I do give David Adelman a lot of credit, I like the way he's gone about it. I think he's let the players lead the way. I think that he sounds good at the microphone, which I think is important given where the Nuggets are in their season. If he were to step up to the microphone and sound like a bumbling idiot, that would be a little bit worrisome. I think he's had good reasons for the decisions that he has made. At times, he's been a little bit headstrong, which I don't think is a bad thing. And many other times, he's been able to kind of poke fun at himself. He didn't seem too threatened by the idea of Nikola Jokic coaching himself. He's like, I'd love for Nikola to coach himself. Like, I've liked everything I've seen from David Adelman. I don't have one critique of the David Adelman era so far. But I would not sit here today and say that David Adelman should be the next head coach of the Denver Nuggets. I think where I'm at is David Adelman would have, or the Denver Nuggets as a whole would have to do something that I would not expect they would do with Michael Malone. Right? I mean, isn't that kind of a fair way to look at it? If David Adelman takes this team, or just the fact that David Adelman is in charge and not Michael Malone, takes this team to a place where you didn't expect they'd be under Michael Malone, I think that would very much make David Adelman the front runner for the Nuggets job, right? Because then you could argue he was just what the Nuggets needed, his temperament. I mean, this guy, he's not, he's not the next JJ Redick, right? David Adelman has been talked about for years as being one of those, the next cycle he's going to be hired, or the next cycle. And look, you got to wonder about guys who have been in every cycle over the last few years and have never gotten a gig. You do wonder about that a little bit. Because the Nuggets took a chance on one of those guys after they fired George Karl. That was Brian Shaw. And the Nuggets and you and I quickly found out why Brian Shaw had never gotten a head coaching job. You have to do your due diligence. You have to understand why somebody who is a longtime assistant and has been talked about as this well-respected assistant, and any day now he should get a job, and he doesn't. You got to figure out why. I think that will be Josh Kroenke or the new GM's job, or both of their jobs in concert, to figure out whether it's David Adelman or it's an assistant from someone else's staff. Why, if they are so well regarded, why haven't they gotten a head coaching job yet? Because they made that mistake with Brian Shaw. So think back to the Nuggets a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Russell Westbrook had just, for the second consecutive night, missed a very important and consequential layup in a game that the Nuggets lost. For the second straight night, Russell Westbrook refused to speak to the media. Not trying to pick on Russ, but that was one of the last things. And I get, let's go the Pacers game. So this doesn't seem like I'm picking on Russell Westbrook. Just think about before you knew that Michael Malone had been fired. Where did you expect them to go? After Sunday's game against the Pacers, or leading into Sunday's game against the Pacers, what did you think that the Nuggets were capable of doing? Who did you think that the Nuggets were capable of beating? Even with how things were going, I still was not completely convinced that the Nuggets could beat everybody in the West, not named Minnesota and Oklahoma City. I think I was there. Even with the loss to Golden State, I'm like, all right, I'm not letting one game completely change my perspective. I do still think that the Denver Nuggets are not a good matchup for the Golden State Warriors. I still thought that the Nuggets, if they were to meet the Warriors, would beat the Warriors. I would have told you a week ago the same thing I told you yesterday. If Jamal Murray is healthy and right, the Nuggets will beat the Los Angeles Clippers. They will not beat the Los Angeles Clippers if he's not. Or at least that's kind of the way I was leaning. I'm leaning Clippers if he's not healthy. Leaning Nuggets if he is. So if Jamal Murray is not healthy and the Nuggets are rolling Russell Westbrook out in the starting five against the LA Clippers and they win the series, I'd have to think about that. That would be the Nuggets doing something that I did not expect them to do a week ago. I did not expect them to be a team like the Clippers with no Jamal Murray. But I think more so what that would look like to me is it's very clear in front of them. I feel like if the Nuggets beat the Clippers, still no. Nuggets advance past the Thunder, yes. Because I have not believed for a long time that the Denver Nuggets, even though I was quite bullish on the Nuggets' chances of beating Oklahoma City coming into this season, it didn't take me long to move off of that. I have not believed the Nuggets would beat the Thunder in a 7-game series in a while. So if David Adelman brings this team up against OKC in round 2 and they get to the Western Conference Final, I think you have to consider David Adelman the front runner for that job. That's really where I'm at. If they beat the Clippers, it would have to be a very specific set of circumstances for me to feel like, okay, David Adelman's now the front runner. But if they get past Oklahoma City as well in the second round, I think Josh Kroenke would have to think long and hard about David Adelman potentially being the head coach and the new GM of the Denver Nuggets. So let's not forget that part of the equation too. Would have to seriously consider. I know any new GM would very much like to bring in their guy, but this is not a normal situation. Right? This will not be a normal team hiring a GM and coach in an offseason. Right? This is a team that just 2 years ago were champions of the world. And they fired both their GM and their coach with 3 games left in the regular season. This isn't normal. So if you bring in a general manager, let's say a non-Bob Myers, I think if Bob Myers comes in, you're giving him the ability to choose his guy. Even though I would say, hey, David Adelman got the Denver Nuggets to the Western Conference Finals, you should really consider making him your head coach. You're bringing in Bob Myers because you want him to take control of this organization and make the decisions that he sees are best. But if you're just going to grab an assistant, the guy that they elevated yesterday, certainly if they make this new guy the full-time general manager, then David Adelman, under those circumstances I just laid out, should be the full-time head coach. I doubt that the Nuggets promote from within at both posts. I would doubt it. But if they bring in some young up-and-coming executive like a Tim Connolly was or like a Masai Ujiri is and very much go through their normal pattern, and David Adelman gets this team to the Western Conference Finals, I think that it would be well within Josh Kroenke's right, and the new GM would have to understand, like, yeah, you really got to consider David Adelman here. But I think that's where I'm at. It's not 3 games. It's probably not even the Clippers series. It's what lies beyond that. That's what I had doubts that the Denver Nuggets would be. Oklahoma City, Minnesota. It's not stage of the playoffs. It was the matchups, because I think these Western Conference playoffs are all about matchups. I don't care what seed Minnesota was or what seed Denver was. I don't think that Denver would have beaten Minnesota in the 7-game series. Same thing for Oklahoma City. Conversely, I don't know that I would be too worried if the Denver Nuggets were to play the Rockets in a 7-game series, whether the Rockets had home court or not. It's those two matchups that I was still, as recently as the day before Michael Malone got fired, like, I don't think they'll beat those two teams, but they might be able to beat everyone else in the West. Yes, including the Lakers. What does David Adelman have to show you in order for you to believe he's the right guy to take over as full-time head coach of the Denver Nuggets? I'll take your thoughts. 719 24/7 1313. I love sports. You know this. But sports are not perfect. Sports topics many times are incredibly flawed. The fact that the lingering story after Rory finally completed the career Grand Slam is whether he did or did not talk to Bryson DeChambeau. I don't love that, but I am also not good enough to rise above it. So let's talk about the silent treatment. Rory's psychiatrist, sports psychologist, somebody in Rory's camp spoke out against the accusations that Rory is trying to freeze out Bryson DeChambeau. All right, Logan is in. He wants to be a part of our mock draft next week. He wants to represent his beloved Buffalo Bills. Ask and you shall receive. Logan, you are picking for the Bills next week, my friend. We'll keep in touch. Hopefully you're just listening to this program for the next, let's see, today's Tuesday, rest of today, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, and then you're just ready to go and you dial us up. That may be not quite reality, which I understand. But the more ready you are, the more in tune with what we're doing you are, the better off we will be, and the smoother all this will go. So Logan wants to pick for his beloved Buffalo Bills. Wide receiver? Is that and where we're going with the Buffalo Bills? I don't know. We'll find out. Logan will tell us next week. So if you would like to represent your favorite team in our Drive Time Sports Mock Draft, we'd love to have you. It's a lot of fun. You can represent your favorite team. 719-247-1313 is the number. Just let me know what team you'd like to represent. So, I don't know that I'm making the sports world a better place when I talk about stuff like this, because I feel like I'm just feeding the beast and feeding how insane this story is and taking away from the brilliance of Rory McIlroy and how amazing a moment that was on Sunday. But the fact that what we are left with 2 days removed from Rory's Masters win is whether his silent treatment of Bryson DeChambeau was intentional. Are we being for real right now? Like, can we not? We're not even doing the Mount Rushmore debate. Did anybody do that? Where do we put Rory all time? Did we even have that? Or was it, I hate when sports, and look, and ask anybody who knows me, I'm as self-hating a person as you will find. So I am not holding myself at a higher standard and saying I'm better than everybody else. I partake in all of this stuff too. I don't love when we become gossip columnists. You'll never guess what Rory said to Bryson DeChambeau on Sunday. Nothing. Next on Extra. Like, I don't love it, but we do this sometimes. I didn't even discuss the relationship between Rory and Bryson on Sunday. You know why? Kind of irrelevant. And that's on Bryson. That's not on Rory. Bryson faded into the background of that story on Sunday pretty early in the afternoon. And it feels like, and I would listen to him talking with Amanda Balionis after the Masters. And look, I know that Bryson is not the guy he used to be. Bryson's very more likable now. He's a man of the people now. I get all that. It felt to me like he was trying to make himself a part of this story. Or someone in his camp. Because remember, on social media, his bio says content creator / pro golfer. There is a distinct order in which he puts those two titles. And anybody knows that is any level of celebrity that you cannot simply just run your own social media account. You have to have people to stay vigilant, to keep you top of mind. So it's not like Bryson is just chronically online. He has people that tweet videos about him and post things on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. And I think some of those people maybe more so are trying to make Bryson part of the story. It's not. He was done. He was out of that story by 2:00 in the afternoon on Sunday. But just for anybody who felt like, Rory was so mean to Bryson, just know that Rory's sports psychologist came out today and said that he didn't want Rory. They had talked about Rory not speaking to his Sunday playing partner and just locking in and being in that moment. The fact that I just can't even believe that this is a story. What did you think when this story came out first on Sunday? I think it was Sunday. Maybe it was early Monday. The idea that Rory didn't speak to Bryson. Did you think that it was A, Rory hates Bryson, or B, Rory was fighting all of his demons from Augusta National all simultaneously, every other hole? He didn't string more than 2 good holes together the entire day. He may not, he couldn't have an outside conversation, because I could only imagine what the internal conversation between Rory and his subconscious was. Because I hit one shot into the sand trap and I'm like having an existential crisis on the golf course. I couldn't even imagine being in Rory's shoes and how much is going on in his head. And he has to also consider being friendly to Bryson DeChambeau. What are we doing here? Did you see Rory? You know that gray hair on the sides of his head that was just underneath his hat that you were watching on Sunday? He actually didn't have those gray hairs before Sunday. Fun fact. He actually didn't have them until his tee shot on number 1 on Sunday. And then just immediately, like, gray hairs formed on the side of his head. That dude was playing the most important round of golf in his life, and he has to, be bros with Bryson DeChambeau, the guy breathing down his neck? Like, as much as we look back on Jordan and we pine for the day that the competitiveness of Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant would permeate through the sports world, especially the NBA again, like, we celebrate the fact that Michael Jordan was an absolute jerk. We love it. Oh, he was only about winning. That's all that matters. Anybody's feelings, it doesn't. Kobe the same way, right? Mamba mentality. And here's Rory intently focused on the most important accomplishment in his golf career. And he's expected to take the time, chit chat with his buddy. Like, would anyone have ever said that about, hey, Michael, what would be nice? If, like, before you shoved Brian Russell, that you asked him how his wife and family was doing. Like, just before the game. Like, don't be a jerk. It's silly. But there it is. For inquiring minds. I feel like I should be drinking out of a big, what do they even call those? Stanley Cups? Like the dude from TMZ. Like, that's what I feel like when I have to talk about Rory not speaking to Bryson during the whole, like, what grade are we in? The guy's entire legacy as a professional golfer was on the line, and he wanted him to make chit chat. Why can't you say hi? Why can't you compliment the cool Live logo that is on his hat? Why can't you tell him nice shot? I don't know, because Rory's not Bryson's dad? Come on now. But that, hopefully now that's been put to rest. Nobody thinks that Rory was being a big fat meanie. He was actually just focused on doing his job. A novel concept, I know. 719-24-7-1313. Coming up next, the three stories that are driving the show here on Extra Sports 1300. Hello there. Welcome into a Tuesday edition of Drive Time Sports. I feel like there's something significant about today. I can't quite put my finger on it. It's today, yes? So it's something needs to get done today. I don't know. You know me. I don't birthday, Christmas, Halloween. I'm not about that life. I know what's coming up on Sunday. Not a big fan. Not just about it's just the obligation of it all. It's the pomp and circumstance. I don't need it. I'm not a big holidays guy. So whatever today is, I'm not going to do it. And there's nobody that's going to stop me. No organization, whether it be a private business or a government entity, will stop me from not doing whatever it is that I'm supposed to be doing today because I don't acknowledge holidays. I am a Scrooge that way. It's why people don't want to hang out with me. I understand that, but I am who I am. Surely I'm mistaken, though. There's nothing important today other than this show, obviously. Appreciate you tuning in. Whether you're listening on air, online, through the app, or watching on our social media platforms at Extra Sports 1300. If you are new to this, we do something every day around this time. We talk about 3 stories. They're all very important. You could say that they've been kind of driving the conversation or driving the show. I'm like all jacked up on Mountain Dew or something. I'm in a weird mood today. I think it's because I got to wait like more than a week before the Avs and the Nuggets start the playoffs. And I got to sit through. If I want to watch sports tonight, I have to start with Orlando and the Hawks. Gross. Story number 1, Gabriel Landeskog. How will we remember his Colorado Eagles career? Because it looks like it may have come to an end. Today, the Avalanche terminated his rehab assignment or conditioning assignment, whatever official phrase there is. They have brought him back. He was skating today with the Colorado Avalanche in advance of Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Jared Bednar obviously asked about what the plan is for Gabriel Landeskog this week, and Jared Bednar did the thing he's been doing for weeks, which is not giving us anything and driving everyone crazy. He said it could be a ramp up for Game 1 or maybe not. Thanks, Jared. But you know what he's doing. There's no reason at this point, when we're this close to the finish line, for Jared Bednar to put his hands above his head and proclaim we have won. Gabriel Landeskog will be on the ice. Game 1 against Dallas. LFG, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. There's no reason for him to do that. 1, because it would be so out of character for what the Avalanche have done this whole time that Gabriel Landeskog's been trying to work his way back from the injury and subsequent surgery. Also, let's not forget, this is not the goal here for the Colorado Avalanche is actually not to get Gabriel Landeskog back on the ice. It's to beat Dallas. And if there is something that you can withhold from Dallas that they can't prepare for, or something additional that they have to think about, then you do it. And you do not say, hey, Pete DeBoer, guess what? Gabriel Landeskog's going to be back out on the ice. Isn't that awesome? And then Pete DeBoer's like, hey, guess what? Miro Hiskinen's not playing unless we get to a Game 6. Wow, this has been such a great open communication between us two rivals. Don't work that way. So if there's a thing that Jared Bednar can kind of, keep away from the Stars, you don't know. Not telling you. Not telling you whether Gabriel Landeskog is going to play. That's what coaches do. It's called gamesmanship. But we see it. Heck, the Stars probably see it. You think the Stars think that there's a chance that Gabriel Landeskog's not going to play? But there's no reason to just outright say it. The next step will be Gabriel Landeskog is going to fly with the team to Dallas. That he is fit and ready to at least fly out there. And then that will be the last thing before he's going to play. Or no, I'm sorry. It will be, so he's back with the team. Then it will be, he's going to make the trip to Dallas. He's going to go down there. And then it will be same thing it was in Loveland. If morning skate goes okay, he'll be in the lineup for game 1. And then he'll play. And then this whole comeback will be complete. And it will be awesome. And the Avs will feel like they are invincible and will just, I said yesterday, whatever game Gabriel Landeskog plays, I think the Avs are winning. Getting him back, that emotional boost it would be. Yeah, so whether that's game 1, game 2, game 3, whatever. But there's just no reason to change the tone, to celebrate early, to put up the Tyreek Hill peace sign as you're running away from, like, there's no reason to do it. You're not at the finish line. Cross the finish line. Get him on the ice and say, yeah, Gabriel Landeskog played a hockey game tonight. But that is the latest in Gabe Watch as we get closer to, at least I think we're getting closer to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I have no idea. We know all the matchups. We're just waiting on like a couple of completely meaningless games to finish up, and then we'll know exactly when the Avs are going to be playing. Story number 2, speaking of coming down the home stretch, Travis Hunter has made it this far without conceding anything about only playing one side of the football. So why should he now, telling CBS Sports he would rather quit football than not play both offense and defense? Now, could that be a bit of hyperbole? Yes. But there's no reason for Travis Hunter to relent on this, to bend on this. He has worked for as long as he has played football to be a two-way player, to continue to do it. The amount of work that he puts in, how great a shape he is in, how healthy he keeps himself. I mean, there are guys that are more banged up than him and play one side of the football. There are players that sustain more injuries than Travis Hunter that play a non-contact sport. Travis Hunter has been working towards this. This is who he is. It was the same thing with Shohei Ohtani when he came over from Japan. You were not going to make Shohei Ohtani either a hitter or a pitcher. If you wanted Shohei Ohtani, you would let him hit and you would let him pitch, because that's what he was coming to America to do. Same thing with Travis Hunter. He's not coming to the NFL to be just a wide receiver or just a defensive back. And why in the world, if you are a worthwhile organization, would you tell Travis Hunter, no, you can't try to do both? You just draft the guy and that's the message you want to send right out of the box? You want to at least give the guy a chance? So there's no reason for Travis Hunter to bend on it. Yeah, I think ultimately he probably would. I don't think he'd just up and retire if 3 weeks into training camp, the Giants were like, we just want you to play defensive back now? I think he'd make a big stink about it, but I don't think he'd quit. But this is the Travis Hunter story. And not for nothing, if you are really considering taking Travis Hunter in the top 3 picks, as it is reported that both the Giants and the Browns are interested in Travis Hunter, you're going to take him in the top 3 as either just a defensive back or just a wide receiver. That would actually not be that great of a pick. It really wouldn't. Because you need a quarterback. And you could even argue, if you're going to limit Travis Hunter to one side of the football or the other, why don't you just take Abdul Carter? Pass rusher's more important. So if the Giants or the Browns are going to draft him, then it's to try and play him on both sides of the football. I just don't see why a team would take Travis in the top 3 and then say you're just this. It would be too high of a pick for either a wide receiver or a corner in this draft. But if you get both of them in one player, how much do coaches complain about we don't have enough roster spots? They want their practice squad to be 76 players, and they want the NFL roster to be 110. They want, we don't have enough roster spots. We need more players. And here's a guy that takes up 2 players in one, and you don't want that? You don't want to utilize that? I just don't. I understand why Travis is being this way. I really don't think that there is a feeling amongst NFL teams that once they get Travis Hunter on draft night, that they're going to tell him you're just going to be one or the other. They can prefer one or the other, right? Like I say, Travis Hunter's better position is defensive back. I think he can be more of a difference maker as a defensive back than a wide receiver. So that's fine if they want him to play more on one side than the other. And there's going to be development. There's going to be a learning curve. Not expecting Travis Hunter to play the number of snaps that he did at CU per game in his rookie year. But there's training camp, there's preseason, there's practice, there's 17 games during the regular season. There's practices between each of those games. There's plenty of time to show that you're developing Travis Hunter to be able to do both. But I don't think it's where you want to start a relationship with somebody like Travis Hunter for him to come into your organization and you be like, yeah, that thing you've been working for your whole life and working so hard to be and you believe you are. Yeah, no. This isn't moving from left tackle to left guard, which, by the way, for a lot of linemen is like a death blow. Have you seen Will Campbell talk about potentially moving inside? That dude's not having any of it. Could you imagine what kind of that conversation would look like with Travis Hunter if you told him he was going to be one or the other? I don't believe they're going to do it. If you're drafting Travis Hunter at 2 or 3, you're getting him because you want him to be the Shohei Ohtani of football. Story number 3. Oh, speaking of the Colorado Buffaloes, there's an update. If you've been missing the annual debate between like such debates as Trevor Siemian versus Brock Osweiler, or Teddy Bridgewater versus Drew Lock, or Tim Tebow versus Kyle Orton, you can just look at Boulder. They have a quarterback competition brewing, or at least they would have you believe that. Pat Shurmur, who is not a stranger to quarterback competitions in the state of Colorado, if you recall, doing what I fully expect him to do and to make a case for all 3 of their quarterbacks in advance of the spring game to all be starters. which he did. He talked about each and every one of them and said wonderful things and said it was an open competition. Again, it's Julian Lewis, the highly touted incoming freshman. There's Caden Salter, who they got from Liberty, and there's Ryan Staub, who was the backup to Shedeur Sanders last year. Pat Shurmur and Deion Sanders and anybody else with CU will let this play out, but I would say something is wrong. It's not going according to plan if Caden Salter is not the starter. You just look at this quarterbacking situation, and it's not to say that Julian Lewis isn't waiting in the wings or Julian Lewis could make an appearance at some point this upcoming season. But it just, you look at that quarterback room and you're like, it's Caden Salter who's going to start this year. And then you try with a somewhat remade roster, but a very veteran, productive quarterback leading the way. You hope not to slip at all. At least maintain what you were last year. Maybe take your shots and see if you can even improve. Get Julian Lewis ready. And either late this year or next year, it's Julian Lewis's job. I think that's how CU would like it to play out. And I think that something will have gone wrong, probably with Caden Salter. I don't see Julian Lewis being so good, so surprisingly good, that they make him the starter. And we just can't deny it. I think it would be something wrong with Caden Salter. Because I think this was the plan. You go hard after Julian Lewis. And bring in somebody that can immediately help you win games and bring Lewis along with the idea that no later than next season, not this upcoming season, but the next season, it will be Julian Lewis's show in Boulder. But for now, before the spring game even happens, yeah, I'm not surprised that Pat Shurmur is talking about how any one of these three guys could start. It's Caden Salter's job to lose. I'll put it that way. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, we've known for a while that it will be Dallas and Colorado in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But now that it is minted and every matchup is set, if the Avs beat the Stars, are they going to the Stanley Cup final? We'll discuss next on Extra Sports 1300. Dusty Slay, very popular comedian, is coming to the Pikes Peak Center on May 3rd for his night shift tour. If you would like to go, I have a pair of tickets for the 13th texter to text Slay and their name to 719-247-1313. 13th texter to do that will win a pair of tickets to see Dusty Slay at the Pikes Peak Center. And having teenage sons like I do think it's worth mentioning that Dusty Slay is I don't know if he would consider himself necessarily a clean comic. There are certainly some conversations and jokes but I would say that certainly Dusty Slay would be a great comedian to bring your son or daughter to go watch. And I know every comedy show is not necessarily that way. Just as an aside, if you're wondering if you should be interested in this. Yes, because he's hilarious, first and foremost. But maybe one of those shows where you can bring your kids and not be cringing the whole time about some of the jokes that are being thrown out there. So we still have some business to attend to in the NHL, and it is fairly significant, right? And in the Western Conference, you have Minnesota, you have St. Louis, and you have Calgary, who are all have yet to clinch a playoff spot. So these games do matter. Not all of them, but the games involving those teams, and then Montreal, and who is Montreal battling with? Columbus on the Eastern Conference side. Any games that they are playing matter. It's just the fact that the Stars and the Avs are already decided. It's a little like we seriously got to sit through 3 more days of regular season hockey to get to the playoffs. Anyway, so games tonight that are of note, and I would be curious if they broke a certain way, whether we would actually find out tonight when the Avs and Stars series begins. Because doing the math, which is never my strong suit, so take it for what it's worth, I believe if Minnesota beats Anaheim and the Blues beat Utah, I believe there is nothing Calgary can do, even by beating Vegas tonight. I think they're done. I want to check my math on that. Wild have 95 points. How many games does Calgary have left? Calgary has 2. That means Calgary's maximum number is 96. You all follow me here? All right. So Wild win. That would put them 3 points up. Make them 97. That would be 5 up on Calgary. All Calgary could do is take the last playoff spot from St. Louis. So it would be Minnesota wins, St. Louis wins, and I guess Calgary would have to lose. And then the West would be completely figured out, right? Because that puts the Blues on 96. I guess it would mean the tiebreaker between Calgary and St. Louis. But let's just make it easy. Wild win at home against Anaheim. The Blues win at home against Utah. And right there, if these two teams are serious about making the postseason, they should probably beat Anaheim and Utah, wouldn't you say, at home. And Calgary, with Vegas with nothing to play for, I guess you could say could win, but Vegas is better than Calgary, so there's a chance that the Flames lose tonight. The West could be figured out. The East, maybe not, but I think there's a chance that we figure out Avs Stars playoff schedule after tonight if it plays out a certain way. But let's just take the matchups as they are. And I will say that who St. Louis plays is significant, right? Because if St. Louis jumps Minnesota, now St. Louis, who a lot of people, it's funny, the parallels. I think a lot of people feel about St. Louis the way that NBA people feel about the Clippers. Like, there are a lot of people that are jumping on that bandwagon. St. Louis is kind of I'll say this, they are a scary team. Wouldn't love to play St. Louis. But I think people are going a little bit above and beyond when it comes to buying stock in St. Louis. I don't think they're one of the 3 best teams in the West. But they've had a remarkable run to put themselves in this position, and shouts to Jim Montgomery for getting it right there. But I'm looking at the way that the bracket is at least set up as of today. St. Louis arguably the hottest team in the NHL, going against the dreaded President's Trophy winner in the Jets. That would be obviously the second round matchup for the Avs. If they were to beat Dallas, they would play the winner of St. Louis and Winnipeg. Let's do this another way. Let's say that Minnesota stumbles tonight and St. Louis jumps them. And now Minnesota is playing Winnipeg. And now St. Louis plays Vegas, because the other series that is cemented is LA and Edmonton. That would be, I think, an easier path for the Avs. And I say easier is relative. Right? I mean, Winnipeg got as many points as they got this season for a reason. St. Louis is red hot. Right? The West is no joke. But I've been so focused on Avs Stars and Gabriel Landeskog's return. Now that I'm looking at this bracket really for the first time, are we sure that the winner of Dallas and Colorado doesn't get to the Stanley Cup final? Winnipeg has their playoff demons, especially their goaltender, and they've also won the President's Trophy, which is not usually a great indicator of playoff success. St. Louis has been on a great run as of late, but look at that team. Do you believe in St. Louis? Minnesota, I haven't believed in since the puck dropped on the beginning of the season, so I'm certainly not buying into them now. Edmonton has some serious injury concerns. Matthias Ekholm is done for the playoffs. Kings, I think you got a glimpse into how LA and Colorado match up just a couple of weeks ago. I think the winner of the Avs Stars series very may well be representing the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup final. That's the way it looks to me right now. There's some things going against Winnipeg. I'm not as big of a believer in St. Louis as some people are becoming. Vegas, I think you could say, is not quite the team they have been, but they're very good. Minnesota, no. Edmonton's banged up. In LA, I don't believe in. Avs Vegas, Avs Edmonton. I think there's a very good chance. And I think at the very least it adds to the emotion of this series. I think Dallas Avs is the best series that we're set up to have right now. You got the Mikko Rantanen. You have, obviously the division rivalry. That was always going to happen because that's the way the NHL sets it up. But these two teams just playing each other, how good they both are, the completely remade Colorado Avalanche. I think this Dallas-Colorado series is going to be the one to watch. And that's not a homer pick because I would say probably the most interesting NBA matchup in the first round is actually Minnesota and the Lakers. As intriguing as I find Nuggets-Clippers, I do think that Minnesota and the Lakers is probably the most fascinating first-round series. I think Colorado and Dallas, Gabriel Landeskog, completely remade Avs roster, Mikko Rantanen, and the fact that if a lot of people look at this bracket, I think you're going to be like, yeah, Avs, Dallas, that winner may get through to the Stanley Cup final. Take your thoughts on that assertion. 719-247-1313. Also, by the way, I just like, if you're watching the stream, I just like karate chopped my earbuds out of my ears. Very weird. If you are interested in representing your favorite NFL team in our drive time mock draft, let me know. 719-247-1313. We had Logan pledge that he will be the guy to pick for the Bills. Jason texted in and said he's got his Saints. He actually, I think, has one of the more interesting picks in the first round of the draft, given the news about Derek Carr and given Shador, whether he's falling or not. So I think Jason representing his Saints is great because I think the Saints are a really interesting team. And pick number 9 is really interesting. So if you would like to represent your favorite team, yes, I will require that you speak your pick into your phone onto this show. Call in, make your pick. It doesn't mean you have to go on for 20 minutes to explain it. I may ask a follow-up. If I'm surprised by it, I may say why. I'm not going to keep you on the line for 20 minutes explaining yourself. But I would like you to call in and be like, hey, with the 9th pick, the New Orleans Saints select Shador Sanders. Boom. Cool. Why? Give me a quick reason. I'll let you go. And thank you for your helping out. That's all it is. If you'd be interested in that, let me know. 719-247-1313. That starts Monday. So Monday, first 11 picks. Tuesday, it will be the Cowboys through the Broncos. We'll let the Broncos simmer a little bit. Let there be a collective poll question, a vote on who the Broncos should take. And then the next day, pick it up with the rest of the picks, as many of them as we can get through. So give you an idea of where your team's going to be picking and what day you want to make sure that you're more locked into the show than normal. But yeah, just text in. Let me know who you are, what team you would like to pick for. 719-247-1313. Also want to tell you, in the meanest of times, guys, if you're over 40, there's a chance that you're struggling with low energy. You may not be feeling yourself. That's the case. Just know that it's kind of normal for men when they pass the age of 40, but there is help. Low T Center and their testosterone replacement therapy. You can get started today. Visit one of their conveniently located clinics, meet a medical provider, and get back to feeling your best. This April only, so immediacy here. Act soon. Consultation free in the month of April. So now you have even less to lose and everything to gain. Get treated at their centers or from home. Why would you wait? Book your appointment now at lowtcenter.com. That's lowtcenter.com. This Saturday, Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC back at Widener Field in some new duds as they reveal their new jersey as they take on El Paso Locomotive. Gates open at 5, kickoff 6 p.m. Get your tickets now. SwitchbacksFC.com. Or just how about from me, like right now? 719-247-1313 is the number that you need. Text Switchbacks and your name to that number. And the 13th texter to do it will win a pair of tickets for Saturday's match between Switchbacks FC and El Paso Locomotive. Come on, do the locomotive with me. Is that how it goes? I don't think so. Brett says, I was hoping we could talk about the alarming surprise, not just a surprise, an alarming surprise that Chris Bryant is on the injured reserve list. The guy consistently plays 165 games a year, and now his first injury. Fortunately, the Colorado Rockies ownership has gotten their money's worth out of him. And with every single word, the sarcasm just dripping off of every typed or spoken to text word from Brett. Yeah, did you see that? And not just that Chris Bryant is going on the injured list. I saw the word degenerative in the... Did anybody else see the actual designation of the injury he has? I thought I saw the word degenerative. As in, is going to get worse and worse? Like, to be very serious for a moment, dude, this guy doesn't deserve this. Right? He unknowingly became, I don't know, the symbol of us against him. And him, it was not Chris Bryant, it's Dick Monfort. Like, and he's the symbol. We want Dick Monfort out as the owner. Or at least to hire somebody that he doesn't give his stamp of approval on. Like, find somebody else. Find somebody that everybody else in Major League Baseball thinks highly of. You don't think highly of him. That makes him the perfect candidate. But like, Chris Bryant became this symbol of the struggle between people who actually would prefer the Rockies be halfway decent and not an abomination of a baseball team, which is what they've become. And Chris Bryant didn't deserve to be caught in the middle. And it sucks that he's legitimately hurt, and it may be something that is only going to get worse and worse and worse. But if we could take the human element out of it for a moment, there was, when they signed Chris Bryant, there was zero chance that the next good Rockies team would have Chris Bryant on it. That's what made that signing so puzzling. You're doing all of this stuff, which sure seems like a teardown. It sure seems like you're tanking, you're rebuilding, however you want to phrase it. And then you pay top of market for a significant name guy in Chris Bryant and then proceed to do nothing else. It was the weirdest thing. If this hadn't been the organization that suddenly up and traded Nolan Arenado for a sack of magic beans, not even a sack, it was like one of those envelopes that the seeds come in, like one of those. That's what they trade Nolan Arenado for. If not for that trade, then the Chris Bryant signing would be the weirdest thing they've ever done, because it was just him on a roster full of not great baseball players, to be as politically correct as I can be, or be as nice as I can be politically correct. I was going to say that they stink. The weirdest thing they did. But there was no way that the next good Rockies team, I'm not even talking about great. I'm not talking about Rocktober. I'm talking about 500 Rockies team. The next 500 Rockies team would not have Chris Bryant on it. Because even though he wasn't old by any stretch of the imagination, the Rockies' runway was so long, and Chris Bryant was already at an age where it's like he was never going to be at least he wasn't going to be a productive player on the next good Rockies team. If he was going to be on that team at all. And now, to me, this just means I was proven right faster than I could have possibly imagined and under the worst circumstances, because it has been health with Chris Bryant. But it's like I can't even. I'm watching that game last night. You know what I feel like the only thing you can do right now with the Rockies? Treat them like people are treating the Minecraft movie. Like the Minecraft, if you've seen the Minecraft movie, it's not good, right? Like we agree on this. I'm not missing anything. It's not a good movie. But it's just that they do the memes. It's like meme after meme after meme after meme. And people are, even if you haven't seen the Minecraft movie, you will understand the phenomenon because it's what an older generation did with Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's not a good movie either. Right? Or am I just not cultured when it comes to movies? Minecraft movie, Rocky Horror Picture Show, both not good movies. But it's taken on this other life of its own where people have the best time watching it. And I don't get it. On its merits, neither movie is any good. And I think that's the point. So I feel like when I see all the stories about people throwing popcorn everywhere in the movie theater during the Minecraft movie when they do the chicken jockey thing, I feel like that should be what happens at Coors Field. Like I'm done gatekeeping. I'm done telling people shame on you for going up there. Like go. What difference does it make? Get some enjoyment out of life. If you enjoy even watching that horrific baseball team, if you derive even a little bit of joy by being at 20th and Blake, then you chase that feeling. I'm not going to do that anymore. Cuz it doesn't do any good. And who's it punishing? Just people that want to go out and have a good time. So you know what? Go out, have a good time. But there's got to be something. Got to throw popcorn or there's got to be some kind of I don't know. We have to figure something out because I feel like the Rockies are quickly becoming the Rocky Horror Picture Show / Minecraft movie of Major League Baseball. Like they are unwatchable. You have to figure out something else to do during that time. You have to be oddly invested in something with the Colorado Rockies to make it worth your while. That's what it should become up at 20th and Blake. I got too much. The number of things I have on my plate. I just can't. I know what you're thinking. Ryan, why don't you do it yourself? I don't have the time. And I'm not creative enough. I'm not the guy that came. I went to the Minecraft movie with my kids, None of us threw popcorn. We had no idea. Now, we went the day after it opened, but it never crossed my mind that that would be something to do. And maybe, that just shows that I'm not creative. I could have started the whole trend by throwing the popcorn everywhere. It's bad. Like, it's so bad. They just scored their first run in like 5 games last night. Michael Toglia is being taken out of the lineup after like 100 and something games. Every game started first base, and then like they can't even keep that going because their hitting is so atrocious. But speaking of atrocious, have you seen the City Connect uniforms? Ugh. Get me a melon baller so I can carve out my eyeballs. It's crazy. Albert says he, whose name should never be spoken, only signed Bryant for a face to put on the ads and gate receipts that just seemed to flow into the coffers like his father's cattle filled the feed lot. But the Dodgers are the problem, guys. The Dodgers are the problem. Never forget that. All right. That'll do it. Today was weird. Thanks for hanging with me. Don't forget, if you'd like to be a part of our Drive Time mock draft next week, represent your favorite team, hit me up, 719-247-1313. Love to include you. We'll have more Avs and Stars talk, Clippers, Nuggets, as we get just a little bit closer. This week is the worst week. It's the absolute worst week. We're at the end of the draft stuff, and we got to wait through the Hawks and Magic to get to the real playoffs. It's like it is excruciating. It really is this week. So hang tough. We'll try to get through it together. Talk to you tomorrow at 3 right here on Extra Sports 1300.